The first thing anyone heard was the thunderous whir of propellers slicing through the calm Abuja afternoon sky. The second was silence. Not from the jet, from the crowd gathered outside the glossy, flower-draped wedding hall of the Grand Elim Estate, one of the most expensive event centers in the FCT. It was a wedding so grand that even governors sent their regrets in monogrammed envelopes. All heads turned upward as the silver and white private jet hovered overhead and began its slow descent toward the exclusive helipad behind the venue. Phones went up. Security stiffened. Guests whispered. "Who is arriving by private jet again?" one bridesmaid asked, pressing her palm to her chest. "The governor's wife?" "No, the governor already came in a black range," said another woman, squinting through her lashes. "Maybe some Dubai dignitary?" Inside the hall, Desmond Olarwaju was adjusting his agbada before a gilded mirror when his cousin ran in, breathless. "Bro, you won't believe who just landed." Desmond smirked without looking. "Another senator?" "No," the cousin whispered, mouth dry. It's Nike." Desmond froze. "Nike who?" His cousin licked his lips. "Your ex-wife, Ade Nike." The hall trembled. Outside, the jet doors opened with a hiss. And she stepped out. She was dressed in an emerald green lace gown, hand-beaded with crystals that shimmered like secrets under the sun. The gown hugged her curves modestly but with regal confidence. Her geli was folded high, firm, bold, unapologetic. Her earrings swung like small chandeliers. Every step she took down the aircraft stairwell was measured, queenly. But it wasn't the dress. It wasn't even the private jet. It was the children. Not one. Not two. 3 little boys walked beside her, their hands in hers, dressed in identical ivory agbadas, caps tilted like princes. Triplets. The crowd gasped in unison. One elderly auntie dropped her hand fan. Someone near the gate whispered too loudly. "Wait, no, wasn't she Barren? Isn't she the one Desmond divorced because she couldn't conceive? But those are her children?" A videographer who had been filming the groomsmen slowly panned his camera toward the scene. His assistant whispered, "Make sure you get her face, this one go trend." Ade Nike didn't flinch. She didn't wave. She didn't smile. She walked through the growing crowd like parting a sea, head held high, her sons at her side, her silence louder than any microphone. Her heels clicked softly on the marble as she approached the entrance like she belonged there, like she owned it. Inside, the music paused as murmurs spread like harmattan fire. The bride's makeup artist stopped mid-stroke. The groom's father dropped his champagne flute. The bride herself turned to her chief bridesmaid in confusion. "Who's everyone looking at?" Then the doors opened. And in walked Ade Nike Olarwaju, or whatever her new name was now. The ushers stood stunned. She didn't wait for them. She simply handed one of her sons a gold-embossed card and said, "Tell them your mummy was invited." The boy marched forward with innocent confidence and handed it over. The usher read it, blinked. Her name was there. First class. Front row. Desmond had invited her to mock her. Humiliate her. He thought she'd come looking tired, thin, and jealous. He didn't expect this. Ade Nike walked into the reception like she was walking through a season she'd already survived. She didn't acknowledge the whispers. She didn't look at Desmond. She didn't need to. All she did was guide her boys to their seats, adjust their caps, then sit down and wait. There were cameras everywhere. But the moment was already seared into memory. The woman he called Barren. The woman he discarded. The woman who vanished. Had come back. Not with bitterness. Not with revenge. But with 3 beautiful sons. And a jet. Before the private jet. Before the whispers. Before the triplets, there was a woman who believed in love more than herself. Her name was Ade Nike Owolabi, and 6 years ago, she married Desmond Olarwaju in a humble but heartfelt wedding held inside the main hall of Rima Baptist Church, Surulere. It wasn't glamorous, but it was real. They wore matching white lace. She borrowed her geli. He borrowed his cousin's shoes. The food ran out halfway through the reception, but their smiles never did. Ade Nike looked at Desmond like he was her answered prayer. Because to her he wasn't rich yet. He was barely surviving. But she had seen his mind, sharp, ambitious, fire-breathing, and she swore to walk beside him until that fire became flame. And so she did. Their first apartment was a tiny two-bedroom in Aguda, with peeling paint and cockroaches that refused to die. Adenike worked as a front desk officer at a school in Yaba, while Desmond jumped from contract to contract, writing property proposals, chasing investors, pitching his future to anyone who would listen. He'd come home some nights with dust on his shoes and disappointment in his eyes. And every night, Adenike would boil water, rub his feet and say, "You'll make it, my love. Just don't stop." She cooked for his meetings. She ironed his shirts. She typed business plans late at night. She sold her late father's land in Ibadan so Desmond could buy his first plot of land in Aja, the turning point in his career. When the money finally came, it came fast. And Desmond changed just as quickly. The first thing he bought was a Benz. The second was a duplex in Lekki. The third was silence. He stopped saying, "Thank you." Stopped praying with her at night. Stopped coming home early. His igbadas got longer, his phone passwords got stronger. One day, he came back with a new Rolex and new rules. "You can stop working now," he said. "Stay home. Look the part. No wife of mine should be entering Danfo again." Adenike obeyed, but something in her spirit began to unravel. She missed the classroom. Missed structure. Purpose. Community. But most of all, she missed the Desmond who used to hold her hand when he had nothing. And then came the whispers. 6 years and no issue? Ah, it's spiritual. Oh. She should go and see Pastor Bolu for deliverance. She must have aborted in her past life. Adenike heard it from market women, from ushers at church, from Desmond's own mother, Mama Funmaleo, who called every week to remind her that time was running out. "It's not me that's complaining, oh," Mama would say with a chuckle. "But Desmond is an only son. What are we waiting for?" Adenike did everything. Fast-tracked ovulation. Drank herbs. Went for tests. Poured anointing oil on her stomach every night. But nothing changed. Except Desmond's patience. And his tone. The final crack came one rainy night. The compound generator had just gone off. The house was dim, lit only by backup bulbs. Adenike was folding laundry on the couch when Desmond walked in, soaked and irritated. "You didn't wait for me to eat?" he snapped, flinging his car keys onto the dining table. "I thought you were eating out," she replied gently. "Do I look like someone who ate?" She stood to help him with his jacket, but he shoved past her. "Desmond." He turned sharply. 6 years, Nike. "What are we doing? Are we roommates? Prayer partners? Abi, what exactly is the plan here?" Adenike froze. "Desmond, I've been trying." "Trying what?" "To be barren." Her mouth opened, but no sound came. "I've seen your test results," he said. "And I'm telling you now, the problem is spiritual." She stepped back. "Are you saying I'm cursed?" "I'm saying," he spat, "that I need a child. An heir. A son. And if you can't give me that, then what exactly are you good for?" The days that followed felt like slow poison. Desmond stopped speaking to her. He started sleeping in the guest room. Started leaving the house before dawn and returning after midnight. He removed her photo from his phone wallpaper. The staff began to treat her like a shadow. And one Saturday morning, it happened. She walked into the kitchen to find the housemaid giggling over a phone. A chat thread. With Desmond's name at the top. "My baby. When are you coming again? That your wife, she day see her period yet? You know you're the one I want. Once she leaves, we're free." Adenike's hands trembled. She didn't confront him. There was no need. He had already left her in every way that mattered. That night, it rained so hard the roof leaked. She stood in the bedroom, staring at the same bed they once prayed over. Desmond walked in, casually removing his Rolex. "Pack your things," he said. Just like that. No argument? No explanation? She reached for him. He stepped back. "Go and stay with your sister. I'll send your things later." "My sister is in Canada." He didn't blink. "Not my problem." Adenike stared at him with wide, red eyes. "Desmond, we built this life together. He scoffed. You carried nothing but bad luck into this house. The moment I married you, things slowed. Now I know why. She dropped to her knees. He turned his back. She cried out his name. He didn't turn around. Instead, he called his driver. Come and carry Madam's bag. She's leaving tonight. Adenike stood outside the gate of the house she helped build. Rain soaked her to the bone. She held a single nylon bag, her wrapper, Bible, and one change of clothes. Nobody from the estate offered help. Not the gateman. Not the driver. Not even the neighbors who once admired her. She was no longer Madame Adenike. She was just nobody. And Lagos doesn't stop moving for nobodies. But as she walked out of Lekki Phase 1, soaked and shaking, one thought echoed in her heart. God, please, let this not be the end of my story. And somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled. Not just from the sky, but from the future. It was in Guarimpa that Adenike found the kind of roof that didn't judge her. Not a mansion. Not even a flat. It was a self-contained room at the back of her old friend's compound, tucked behind a mechanic's workshop and a makeshift barbershop where Davido's songs blared day and night. Majip, the friend, was the kind of woman who could insult you and hug you in the same breath. Ah, Adenike Olawaju, she had screamed when she opened the gate. Are you mad? You didn't tell me Desmond threw you out like expired yogurt? Come inside before I slap sense into you. Adenike had collapsed into her arms, shaking from hunger, pain, and the humiliation that clung to her like second skin. I have nowhere to go. Dupe had simply pointed inside. Enter. I don't have much. But what I have we'll share. If it's Gary, we'll soak it together. The first few weeks blurred. Adenike barely ate. She barely bathed. She sat on the mattress, facing the cracked wall, her hands clutched tightly around her small Bible like it was the only thing anchoring her to sanity. Dupe tried to help. She brought fufu, played comedy skits, even offered to beat Desmond up with her cousin who just got out of Kirikiri. But nothing worked. Until one night, while they were both seated on the floor, sipping Lipton and eating bread, Dupe spoke what no one else had dared say. Nike, when last did you do a fertility test? Adenike blinked. I did once. The basic blood one. That was 2 years ago. 2 years is too long. And I don't mean the hospital in Lekki where Desmond's friend works. I mean a proper, neutral doctor. I don't need to, Adenike said softly. Desmond said the problem is spiritual. His mother also. Dupe slammed her cup on the floor. Spiritual my foot. Adenike jumped. Dupe's eyes burned. Listen to me, Adenike. You're not cursed. You're not barren. And even if you were, it doesn't make you less of a woman. But we will find out the truth. Not for Desmond. For your peace. Adenike's lips trembled. You don't understand, she whispered. If I go, and they confirm it's me, I don't know if I'll survive it. Dupe reached out, took her hand. And what if it's not you? The next morning, they boarded a Kiki and headed to LifeSpring Women's Clinic, a quiet facility tucked inside Asakoro. Dupe's aunt worked at the reception and got them a 40% discount. The clinic smelled of Dettol, lavender, and second chances. Dr. Fidelis Okachukwu, a calm man in his early 40s with gentle eyes and a crisp white coat, welcomed them. Madam Adenike, he said, please sit. What brings you here today? Adenike struggled to meet his eyes. Dupe answered for her. She was married for 6 years. No child. Husband blamed her. Divorced her. But she's never had a full fertility assessment. The doctor nodded slowly. You came to the right place. We'll run all the necessary tests. Scan, hormone levels, ultrasound, egg reserve analysis. It may take a few days, but we will get you clarity. Adenike whispered, thank you. The tests were uncomfortable. Long nerve-wracking. Blood samples. Vaginal scans. Hormone tracking. The nurses were kind, but every time Adenike lay on that bed and stared at the white ceiling, all she could hear was Desmond's voice echoing in her memory. You're a burden. You're the reason we have no child. You're cursed. She clenched her fists. Sweated through her blouse. Prayed beneath her breath. What if he was right? What if everything she lost was because of her. 3 days later, the results were ready. Adenike sat in the consultation room, her palms clammy, her knees bouncing uncontrollably. Dupe sat beside her, biting her nails. Dr. Fidelis entered with a file and a knowing smile. He sat, opened the folder, cleared his throat, and said the words that shattered every lie Desmond ever told. Madam Adenike, your fertility health is perfect. Adenike blinked. Sorry. The doctor smiled again. Your hormone levels are balanced. Your egg reserve is excellent. Your uterus is healthy. You're ovulating regularly. There is nothing medically wrong with you. In fact, I would say you're in optimal reproductive condition. Adenike's vision blurred. Dupe let out a gasp. Are you sure? Adenike stammered. Dr. Fidelis chuckled gently. Madam, you're healthier than some 25-year-olds we see. If you were unable to conceive in your marriage, I recommend your former husband also undergo full fertility testing. But as far as you're concerned, you are fine. Adenike covered her mouth. Her shoulders trembled. The tears came, not of joy, but of grief. Grief for the 6 years she spent questioning herself. Grief for the prayers she screamed into her pillow. Grief for the marriage she lost, the home she was cast out of, the woman she used to be. Dupe wrapped her arms around her. Do you hear that, Nike? She whispered. You were never the problem. That evening, Adenike stood in the shower, letting the water run down her face like baptism. She placed her palm on her belly. And for the first time in years, she didn't feel shame. She felt power. They lied to me, she whispered to herself. But I will never lie to myself again. Outside the bathroom window, the wind shifted. The first true breeze of her new beginning. The healing didn't happen overnight. But something shifted after the clinic visit. Adenike began to sit outside Dupe's compound in the evenings, just breathing in the Abuja air. She no longer flinched when children ran by laughing. She didn't cry during morning devotionals anymore. She even started cooking again. It began with yam porridge, her specialty. Soft, red, spicy, with perfectly diced onions and just enough palm oil to coat your soul. Dupe came home from her job at the phone accessories shop and nearly wept when she tasted it. You made this. Adenike smiled faintly. I had to do something. I was bored. Dupe blinked. Bored? Stay bored. Make more. The next day she made moi, then ifo riro, then jollof. Before long, neighbors began knocking. Auntie Nike, please, do you have a small plate left? Please ma, I can pay, just give me small portion. She resisted at first. Embarrassed. But Dupe nudged her. You're broke. They're hungry. Let's not overthink destiny. By the end of the week, a table and umbrella had appeared in front of the gate. Handwritten cardboard, home food Aho kitchen. Aho meaning contribution or journey. It felt right. She wore her old apron. No makeup. Hair in scarf. She charged 500 Nigerian nairas per plate, with cold zobo for 200 Nigerian nairas. It wasn't much, but it was hers. On the 7th day he showed up. Black kaftan. Low haircut. Clean glasses. No swagger. Just peace. Good morning, he said, smiling at her shyly. Good morning, sir, she replied. What's your bestseller? Yam porridge and moi. He nodded. Give me both. And zobo. She served him in a takeaway pack, embarrassed by the faded table, the peeling umbrella. He paid 2,000 Nigerian nairas. Didn't ask for change. Keep it, he said, for tomorrow's plate. Then he walked off into the Abuja sun. The next day he returned. Same order. Same overpayment. But this time he stayed. Sat on the plastic chair beside her stand and ate slowly. Your food tastes like it was cooked by someone who has cried and healed. Adenike blinked. That's a strange compliment. He chuckled. It's a rare flavor. Pain and peace in one spoon. His name was Tolu Aini. He ran a growing logistics company, Jetline Movers, handling bulk delivery for tech startups and vendors across Abuja. He wasn't flashy. His car was dusty. His shoes had no logo. But every time he came, he asked about her day. About her dreams. And never once did he ask why she looked sad when children passed, or why her left hand was always bare. Instead, he talked about his mother, who raised him alone after a bad marriage. "I saw what a broken woman looks like," he said one day. "And I saw what a rebuilt woman becomes." Weeks passed. Aho Kitchen grew. Adenike added white rice and egusi to the menu. Then the lines got longer. People came from nearby offices to eat lunch under her umbrella. Even Boda riders began saying, "Go to that woman behind the mechanic shop. The one with eyes like peace. Her jollof day cure heartbreak." But even more consistent than the customers was Tolu. He helped fix her broken umbrella one day. Another day, he bought her new plastic chairs. Then a branded banner, "Aho Kitchen, Real Food. Real Story." She blushed when she saw it. "I didn't ask for this," she whispered. "I know," he said, "but I figured the world should know your name." One evening, after she had closed for the day, he waited beside her as she washed pots. "I don't want to offend you," he began, "but would you ever consider running this as a full kitchen?" She paused. "You mean like a restaurant?" "Yes. I have an empty office space in Was 2. You can pay me back in time. Or don't. We can partner." Adenike froze. "Why me?" He looked at her, eyes steady. "Because you're already doing it. You're just thinking small." She stared down at her sudsy hands. "I'm not used to people offering me anything without expecting something back." He nodded. "Then let me earn your trust. One pot at a time." She didn't give him an answer that day. Or the next. But a week later, she stood before his office, keys in hand, hair tied back, apron in her bag. He greeted her with warm puff and new branded aprons. "I wasn't sure you'd come," he said. "I wasn't sure either," she replied. "But I want to try." He nodded slowly. "Welcome, Chef Adenike. Let's build something together." And just like that, a new fire began to burn. Not the fire of revenge. Not the fire of proving anything to Desmond. But the quiet, steady fire of rebuilding one spoon, one smile, one plate at a time. In the distance, the Abuja skyline glittered. Adenike looked up at the sky and whispered, "God, I don't know where this is going. But for the first time in years, I feel alive." Was 2 wasn't Lekki. But in many ways, it was better. It was neutral ground, away from Lagos memories, and closer to destiny. The new Aho Kitchen sat at the corner of a busy business complex filled with startups, real estate agents, digital marketers, and Abuja's breed of tech bros who wore kaftans and Yeezys. Adenike opened the doors with nothing but borrowed furniture, Tupperware from Dupe, and a printed menu on A4 paper taped to the wall. But on day 1 they sold out. By week 2, a fintech company across the street requested daily lunch delivery. By month 2, a food app reached out to list her. By the 3rd month, a food blogger posted her steaming bowl of ogbono and egusi with the caption, "This ain't your husband's mother's soup. Aho Kitchen is the truth." She grew fast, but wisely. Tolu watched her work ethic with quiet pride. He never overstepped. Never tried to manage her. Just supported. He brought in a friend to help set up POS and inventory. He arranged for new uniforms with her logo. He even sat with her at night, teaching her basic Excel so she could track profit, staff pay, and stock levels. But the business was hers. Every seasoning choice. Every recipe. Every decision. Adenike hired 2 other women to help her. One was a widow named Maimuna who made the best tuwo in town. The other was Gift, a secondary school dropout who could slice onions with her eyes closed. "I don't just want workers," Adenike told them. "I want women who rise with me." She trained them like sisters. Paid them fairly. Let them eat freely. In time, Aho Kitchen became known as the Healing Kitchen. Not because of magic, but because something about Adenike's presence felt like warmth. A woman who had tasted sorrow and still chose sweetness. One evening, after a long day of orders, Adenike was sitting behind the bistro counter, tallying numbers, when a customer walked in and froze. It was a former neighbor from Lagos. One of the women who used to gossip on the compound steps while pretending to peel egusi. "Adenike," she whispered. "Is that you?" Adenike looked up, smiled politely. Yes. Welcome to Aho Kitchen. The woman gawked at the decor, the plants, the tiled floor, the glass signage. See as God works. I heard you moved to Abuja after Desmond sent you away. But look at you now, N. Adenike simply nodded. No bitterness. No revenge speech. Just peace. But the city noticed. One day, a reporter from Abuja Women Rising magazine came for lunch. She didn't reveal herself at first. Just ordered yam porridge and zobo. But the next week, Adenike's face was on the cover. Newspaper, from disgraced wife to business force. The woman behind Aho Kitchen. Inside, the piece detailed her story, not the gossip version, but the truth. Her fall. Her restart. Her silent empire. She didn't mention Desmond. Not once. But somehow, everyone knew. Back in Lagos, Desmond's younger cousin saw the magazine on Instagram and burst into laughter. Desmond, is this not your ex-wife? Desmond snatched the phone. Froze. It was her. Hair in a soft bun. Face glowing. Holding a bowl of yam porridge like royalty. Triplets or not, she had won. He said nothing. Just hissed and walked into his room. Meanwhile, Adenike's bistro got a new makeover. Tolu brought in a branding consultant who reworked her signage, her logo, and her Instagram. He paid for a digital billboard spot at Gwarinpa Junction. Aho Kitchen, home never tasted this good. People began stopping her on the road. Mothers brought their daughters to her for advice. NGOs reached out to invite her to speak to battered women. Someone from the Ministry of Women Affairs called to invite her to a state panel on female entrepreneurship. She had no university degree, no powerful surname, no social media drama. Just grace, grit, and a story too powerful to ignore. One Friday evening as she closed the shop, Tolu came by with Puff Puff again. Do you realize, he said as they leaned on the shop's glass counter, that you've hired 7 women now? Adenike blinked. Is it up to 7? He smiled. You built an ecosystem. You did that. She looked away, heart pounding. We did it. He shook his head slowly. I only gave you a key. You turned it into a kingdom. As she locked up that night, she looked back at the sign. Aho Kitchen. Oh. A journey. One that had begun with tears, betrayal, and shame, but was now a beacon. She whispered beneath her breath. I'm no longer the woman Desmond divorced. I'm the woman he couldn't keep. The day began like any other Sunday. Rain clouds hung over Abuja like lazy gray sheets. Inside the modest apartment above the bistro, the scent of tomato stew filled the air, ripe tomatoes, tates, crayfish, and sizzling goat meat dancing in hot oil. Adenike was barefoot, wrapper tied tightly around her waist, stirring the pot with practiced grace. Tolu leaned by the kitchen door, arms folded, just watching her. Do you know you hum when you cook? He said quietly. She glanced over her shoulder and smiled. I do. He nodded. It's always the same melody. Something peaceful. Like a woman who finally feels safe. She stirred slower. No one had ever said that to her before. They ate in silence that afternoon, just the two of them. No music. Just the clink of spoons and the occasional hum of a passing generator outside. When they finished, she rose to clear the plates. But Tolu stood and took them from her. No, he said, not today. Sit. She blinked, confused. Why? He walked toward the kitchen, but instead of going in, he turned back, hand behind his back. He dropped to one knee. From behind him, he pulled out a ring box. Nothing dramatic. Just clean, quiet, intentional. Adenike, he began. You've survived fire. You've rebuilt an empire. You've taught me the meaning of grace. I don't want to rescue you. I want to walk beside you. She covered her mouth. Tears sprang instantly to her eyes. I don't have anything, she whispered. No family name. No children. Just pain in pots. He chuckled softly. And I have a key and a dusty car. But together, we have a future. She laughed through her tears. And nodded. Yes, Tolu. I'm ready. They didn't throw a big wedding. No choir. No matching aso ebi. Just a small registry service, a modest white dress, Tolu's mother dancing quietly in the background, and Dupe live-streaming it to friends with tears in her eyes. Afterward, they hosted a small lunch for 30 guests at Aho Kitchen. A pot of jollof, egusi, suya trays, and banana cake baked by Maimuna. Guests said it was the most peaceful wedding they'd ever attended. And when Tolu toasted his bride, he simply said, "She was never the problem. She was the promise." Months passed. Business kept growing. Adenike expanded to weekend meal prep. She hosted free cooking classes for young women. Tolu got a contract to manage delivery for a major pharmacy chain. Life was quiet joy. And then one Tuesday morning, the vomiting started. At first, she assumed it was stress. She'd skipped breakfast. But the next day, it happened again. And the next. And her body felt different. She stared at herself in the bathroom mirror, toothbrush frozen midair. Could it be? She was 36. She had tried for 6 years before. Nothing happened. Surely this wasn't. Still, she bought a test. Just to be sure. She didn't even tell Tolu. The lines showed up before she'd finished counting to 10. Positive. She dropped to the floor. Breath shallow. Just pregnant? She clutched the stick to her chest and wept. For the wasted years. For the rain that beat her the night Desmond sent her away. For the months she slept on a mat in Guarimpa, ashamed of her empty womb. And now. She didn't tell Tolu until that evening. He came home, sweaty from work, briefcase in hand, smiling. "I bought small fish," he said. Felt like pepper soup. But when he saw her face, he froze. What happened? She pulled him to the sofa. Took his hand. Placed the test kit in his palm. He stared at it. Looked at her. Back at the test. Then again at her. "Are you serious?" She nodded. "I confirmed with the clinic. And there's more." He raised an eyebrow. She pulled out the scan photo. 3 round shapes. 3 heartbeats. Triplets. Tolu dropped to his knees. Hands on his head. Then to the floor, face buried in her lap. He said nothing for 2 full minutes. Then in a choked voice. "God, you do pass like this?" Adenike was already crying. This time, not from pain. But from vindication. From restoration. From the miracle that arrived not when she begged, but when she was finally free. Back at her old compound in Lagos, one of her former co-tenants saw the baby bump reveal on Instagram and sent it to Desmond. The caption read, "Never say God is late. Sometimes he's just waiting for you to stop trusting the wrong people." Desmond stared at the image of Adenike's glowing belly. Then zoomed in. 3 tiny baby shoes rested on the table beside her. Triplets. He dropped the phone. And walked away. Silently. That night, under Abuja stars, Adenike sat on the bistro rooftop, rubbing her stomach gently. Tolu joined her with warm zobo. She looked at him, eyes shimmering. "Do you think I'll be a good mother?" He didn't answer right away. He simply kissed her hand and whispered, "You were already a mother, even before they arrived." Desmond reclined on a plush gray leather seat inside his brand-new G-Wagon G63. The car's V8 engine purred beneath him like a lion waiting for permission to roar. He took a slow sip from his Starbucks cup. He didn't even like the taste, but the logo looked nice in photos. His new wife, Yemisi, perched beside him, tapping her heavily manicured nails on her phone screen, adding another boomerang to her Instagram story. "Baby," she said without looking up, "don't forget we need to book Dubai for our post-wedding photo shoot. I want Burj Khalifa this time, not that tired marina again." Desmond nodded absently. "Sure." From the outside, Desmond had made it. He ran a furniture import business his uncle helped him set up after he divorced Adenike. He lived in a serviced apartment in Lekki Phase 1. He wore designer perfumes, posted soft life selfies, and surrounded himself with Instagram-famous acquaintances. But beneath it all, there was hollowness. Even the laughter in his new home sounded different, plastic, rehearsed, filtered. Yemisi was not a bad woman. But she was not Adenike. She was raised differently. Loved differently. Wanted different things. Where Adenike gave quiet loyalty, Yemisi gave constant visibility. "Baby," she said one night, posing in red lingerie, when are we doing the gender reveal video for YouTube? Desmond stiffened. They'd been married for 10 months. No pregnancy. No delay excuses. The pressure was back. His mother had returned with full force. Are you sure this one's womb is even open? She asked one Sunday evening, slapping Igusi into a plastic bowl in the kitchen. Mom, please, Desmond tried. Don't listen to me. After you drove that first one away because of barrenness, you now brought another one to sit and cross-leg like Instagram madam. No child, no cry, no prayer. Yemisi overheard the conversation and cried that night. Desmond tried to comfort her. But deep down, he was angry too. Why wasn't it happening? They did tests. She was fine. But then again, so was he. Or so the doctor said, although the male fertility results were never as direct as the female ones. Desmond didn't want to go deeper. He felt offended even by the suggestion. In his mind, he was not the problem. The real problem? He'd already thrown her out. Every scroll through Instagram became torture. Adenike's page was filled with food, training sessions, customer reviews, and then the photo. The bump reveal. Her glowing, smiling. Tolu holding her from behind. The caption that read, "From tears to triplets. My God writes full circle stories." Desmond's chest tightened. Triplets? Triplets. He zoomed into the image like a madman. Not even one. Not twins. 3. He couldn't breathe. He threw his phone across the room. Yemisi looked up from where she was painting her toes. Babe? She asked. He didn't answer. He just got up and walked into the bathroom. Locked the door. And for the first time in years, he cried. Silently. Into the marble sink. Yemisi went for IVF a few weeks later. Quietly. Her aunt recommended a discreet clinic in Suralire. She didn't even tell Desmond at first. She just said she was taking vitamins. But the injections, the hormones, the failed first round, it broke her. One night, after their date night dinner, she lay in bed, watching him sleep, and whispered to herself, "Why did I marry a man haunted by his past?" Meanwhile, gossip had begun. The same neighbors who once pitted Adenike were now sending WhatsApp messages like, "Have you seen Desmond's ex-wife? God really changed her story, oh. That one that used to be quiet like church rat, now she's carrying triplets. And him? Still doing boy with all these flashy girls. No child, no peace." Back in his Lekki apartment, Desmond sat on his balcony one evening, watching the street lights. He held a glass of wine, untouched. His driver had just washed the G-Wagon again. Chrome gleaming. He looked down at the street below. Then whispered, "Was it really worth it?" His phone vibrated. It was his mother. He didn't pick. It vibrated again. This time it was a wedding planner, confirming his upcoming wedding relaunch and media push. He stared at it, then turned the phone face down, and sighed. The world clapped for him. But his soul knew better. What he had was noise. What he lost was peace. It was a bright Wednesday morning in Abuja. Adenike had just finished a delivery meeting with her suppliers at the Aho Kitchen warehouse. She was sipping ginger tea on the balcony of her office when her assistant, Maimuna, stepped in, holding a white and gold envelope. "Madam," she said, handing it over. "This came for you. Hand-delivered. Abuja stamp." Adenike took it slowly. There was no name on the front, just a black calligraphy swirl. "Celebrating true love, you're invited." Her fingers paused. She opened the envelope. Inside was a wedding for, embossed, expensive, smelling faintly of oud. The wedding of Desmond and Yemisi, love like no other. The date, 3 weeks away. The venue, Aso Rock Gardens, Abuja. A luxury wedding. On the back, in a neat scrawl, someone had written, "No hard feelings. You're welcome to attend. Would be nice to see you again. D." She stared at the note. Maimuna frowned. "Is everything all right, madam?" Adenike didn't answer immediately. Then calmly she smiled. Folded the invitation. "Everything is just getting started." Across town, Desmond chuckled as he sipped his wine. He had just gotten word from his PA that the 4 was delivered. Yemisi was across the room taking a makeup tutorial from a YouTuber on her iPad. "Baby," he said, "I've decided to invite my ex to the wedding." Yemisi turned sharply. "Why?" "Closure," he shrugged. "Let her see what peace looks like." Yemisi narrowed her eyes, then smirked. "You just want her to see that we're better. It's okay. I understand." They both laughed. They thought it was a final slap. But it would become their greatest humiliation. In Lagos, Dupe burst into the kitchen when Adenike showed her the four. "What?" "Yes," Adenike said, calm as a mountain breeze. "He wants me to come. Publicly." Dupe paced. "This is a setup. You know he thinks you're still poor. Still alone." Adenike touched her belly gently, now visibly round. "I know. What are you going to do?" Adenike smiled. Then whispered, "I'm going to attend. But not as his memory. As my own revelation." That evening, she told Tolu. He read the card and chuckled. "Petty man." Then he looked her in the eye. "You don't have to prove anything to him." "I know," she replied. "But I do have to show up. For every woman who's been left behind." The planning began quietly. She didn't post anything online. Didn't make noise. But behind the scenes, a private stylist flew in from Dubai to fit her emerald green lace dress. Her 3 babies had custom-made agbadas and mini ankara gowns. Tolu arranged for a private jet to be chartered from Lagos to Abuja. Her makeup artist was the same one that did the president's wife's look for Independence Day. The press? Already waiting, though they didn't know who was coming. A week before the wedding, Desmond gave a speech at his bachelor's party. "When you finally find the real deal, you don't look back." His friends cheered. They clinked glasses. But no one knew he still secretly checked Adenike's Instagram at midnight. Meanwhile, Yemisi rehearsed her bridal walk for TikTok. Her caption already saved in drafts. "He who laughs last, laughs loudest, ring red heart, fire #wife goals #married to the best." She had no idea that the real caption waiting to go viral would be written by silence. On the final night before the wedding, Adenike sat in her children's nursery, brushing their soft baby hair as they slept. She whispered, "Tomorrow, my darlings, we walk into the room they tried to bury us from." Her eyes glistened. Not from revenge, but from closure. In Abuja, Desmond sent out his last WhatsApp reminder to guests. No latecomers. Ceremony starts strictly 12 noon. No African time. Yemisi posted her final pre-wedding selfie with the caption, "About to become Mrs. Desmond Ajayi. Haters, how market?" And Adenike? She posted nothing. But in the soft light of her bedroom, her private jet itinerary glowed on her screen. Departure time, 10 a.m. Location, Murtala Muhammad Airport, private hangar B. She closed her laptop and whispered to herself, "God doesn't just restore. He prepares a table in front of them." The morning of the wedding dawned bright and cruelly beautiful in Abuja. Aso Rock Gardens shimmered like something out of a fairy tale. Crystal chandeliers hung from floating white tents. Tables glistened with gold-plated cutlery. Flower petals paved the aisle like a red carpet designed for gods. Guests, influencers, and high society elites streamed in, clad in geli, agbada, lace, Gucci, and pride. Soft Yoruba Fuji music blended with saxophone jazz. Camera crews from Ovation magazine and Arise TV were already stationed, hungry for content. And Desmond? He stood at the altar in a custom-made white tuxedo, hands clasped behind his back, smiling confidently as he whispered to his groomsmen, "She won't come. But if she does, oh, she'll wish she didn't." Back in Lagos, the private jet stood prepped on the tarmac at MA Hangar B. The pilot adjusted his headset. Flight crew stood ready. And then she arrived. Adenike, clad in a floor-length emerald green lace gown, hand-stitched, with delicate beadwork that shimmered like rain on a mango leaf. Her skin glowed with undertones of honey and victory. Her geli sat perfectly, royal, bold, defiant. On each side of her stood her triplets. 2 boys in miniature agbadas. A girl in ankara and soft gold sandals. Their eyes sparkled. Their tiny hands held hers. Tolu walked a respectful step behind her, Not claiming the moment, just protecting it. A media photographer gasped. Wait, is that? The jet door opened. She walked up the steps like she owned time. And as the engines roared, the world below shifted. At Aso Rock Gardens, Desmond was fidgeting now. He checked his gold wristwatch for the 5th time. Guests were seated. Yemisi had finished her 2-hour bridal makeup ritual and was being ushered to the top of the aisle. And just as the officiant cleared his throat to begin, a hush fell. People turned. Phones were raised. Guess. A black Bentley pulled up and parked. But no one stepped out. Instead, a low rumble filled the air. Not from the speakers. From the sky. Eyes turned upward. And there it was. Marked, Serious Jet Charter, Lagos to Abuja. Descending smoothly, gliding like a whisper of judgment. The jet landed on the adjacent private helipad. Desmond blinked. Yemisi froze mid-step. The music stopped. Even the saxophonist paused. A gold stair ramp lowered. The door opened. And out she stepped. Adenike. Emerald green. Gleaming. Glowing. Her triplets followed, coordinated. Regal. Glorious. Silence. Even the palm trees seemed to bow. Desmond's knees nearly buckled. The groomsman whispered, Omo, that's your ex-wife. Yemisi's eyes burned holes into his skull. Photographers rushed toward the jet stairs. Flashbulbs. Screams. Lenses popping. Someone whispered, She came in a private jet? Another gasped, Those kids. Are those his triplets? Aunties covered their mouths in awe. Uncles nodded like they were witnessing divine judgment. Adenike walked in slow motion. She didn't wave. Didn't speak. She just walked with her head high, through the stunned crowd. Each step was a sermon. Each gaze was a reclamation. She paused at the edge of the aisle, locked eyes with Desmond, and smiled. Just slightly. Desmond stepped forward. Nike. His voice cracked. She tilted her head gently. Thank you. He blinked. For what? She took a deep breath, looked at the crowd, then softly added, For setting me free. And with that, she turned, lifted her daughter into her arms. Tolu stepped forward, gathered the boys. They walked away, past the crowd, past the shame, past the past. Desmond stood frozen. His mother, seated in the front row, dropped her fan in shock. Yemisi? Tears welled in her eyes. Not just because of the entrance, but because in that moment she knew. She would never measure up to what he lost. As Adenike's convoy drove off, one of the triplets looked up at her. Mummy, why did they all stop talking? She smiled. Because, my love, when light enters a room, even shadows must pause. Somewhere above Abuja, the jet ascended again, this time headed back home. The babies slept. Tolu dozed beside her. Adenike looked out the window, the clouds parting like heaven itself, and whispered, God, you didn't just give me children. You gave me myself. 2 hours after the jet disappeared from the Abuja skyline, the wedding was still technically underway. But the spirit had left the building. Guests whispered more about her than the couple at the altar. The saxophonist quietly packed up. Ovation magazine deleted their Bride of the Year caption draft and replaced it with, Mystery woman stuns at Aso Rock wedding in private jet. Who is she? Desmond sat like stone in the groom's chair. His smile had long vanished. His lips were dry. His thoughts chaotic. His ex-wife. Not only had she shown up, she had stolen the show. Without saying a cruel word. Without clapping back. Without seeking revenge. Just presence. Confidence. Glory. It haunted him. Yemisi? She smiled for the cameras. She finished the ceremony. She wore the ring. But deep down she knew the truth. Desmond's heart was no longer in the room. Not because he loved Adenike again, but because he would forever be haunted by the memory of what he destroyed. Back in Lagos, the Aho kitchen was buzzing with life again by the next morning. Maimuna stood at the register taking POS payments. Dupe was organizing stock in the cold room. And Adenike? She was in the back room, sitting cross-legged with her triplets playing Ludo on the floor. No Instagram posts, No press interviews. No, I told you so. Just peace. Tolu walked in and placed a steaming plate beside her. Yam porridge. With goat meat. She smiled. You remembered my Sunday favorite. He sat beside her, kissed her forehead gently and said, You reminded them who you were yesterday. Now rest. You don't know the past anything. Later that week, a journalist from Cityscope magazine showed up. We'd love an exclusive story on how you rose from hardship to jet arrival, she said eagerly. Adenike smiled and shook her head. No thank you. The journalist blinked. Why not? Adenike answered simply. Because true power doesn't scream. It whispers. That same week, Desmond tried to send a message through a mutual friend. He wanted to talk. Adenike never replied. Instead, she donated 5 million Nigerian nairas to the Women of Rain Foundation, a support group for divorced women and abandoned mothers. The caption read, To every woman who was told her womb was the problem. I see you. And you are not the problem. You are the beginning of miracles. The message went viral. Not her jet. Not her dress. That quote. It became the WhatsApp status of aunties, sisters, and strangers. It was printed on shirts. And suddenly, Madame Aho wasn't just a businesswoman. She became a symbol. Of rebirth. Of quiet power. Of dignity. Desmond? He began drinking heavily. His business struggled. Yemisi started disappearing for late-night work trips. His mother returned to praying at 5 a.m. again, this time for another womb to open. He couldn't focus. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw that emerald green lace. And those 3 little faces. Triplets. That could have been his. But Adenike? She woke up every day to baby laughter, morning dew, and the smell of moi steaming in banana leaves. She no longer felt pain when she heard Desmond's name. She no longer flinched when someone said, Barren. She had healed. Not because she got even, but because she got better. One morning, Tolu handed her a small box. Inside, a gold necklace inscribed with the words, emerged. She touched it and smiled. I love it. Tolu kissed her gently and replied, It's who you are. That night, as rain drizzled on the rooftop, and her babies slept soundly in their cribs, Adenike stepped onto her balcony, looked up at the sky, and whispered, God, you didn't just vindicate me. You made me a voice. Thank you. She didn't need applause. She didn't need revenge. She had peace. And that was the loudest win of all. It started as whispers, then gossip, then full-blown obsession. By Monday morning, the phrase, jet bride ex-wife, was trending across Twitter Nigeria, Facebook Reels, TikTok, and even within church WhatsApp groups. Screenshots of her arrival circulated with captions like, When Grace locates you. She came silently, left loudly. Private jet plus triplets equals God of Adenike. Radio talk shows picked it up. Who is this woman? A host on Lagos 101.7 FM asked. I heard she owns that Aho kitchen in Lekki, said a caller. I heard her new husband is one tech billionaire hiding from EFCC. Another joked. They laughed. But beneath the laughter was awe. At women's fellowship meetings in Ikeja and Enugu, the story became a prayer point. Lord, the same way you remembered Adenike, remember my sister here today. Even on campuses, final year girls quoted her line. You didn't just give me children. You gave me back myself. Meanwhile in Abuja, Desmond sat alone in his office, staring blankly at a stack of untouched files. The wedding video? Still not edited. Honeymoon plans? Cancelled. Yemisi? She was already back in Lagos, claiming urgent makeup bookings and ignoring his calls. His phone pinged. Headline. Abuja groom's ex-wife upstages wedding with jet and trance. He slammed the phone face down. But it was too late. The humiliation was now immortalized online. His assistant, Kunal, peeked into the office. Oga, should I reschedule your 2 p.m. board meeting? Desmond didn't even look up. Yes. Kunal hesitated, then added gently, Sir, you might want to stop reading the comments. But how could he? Everywhere he turned, she was the conversation. Not for being petty. Not for dragging him. But for doing the one thing he thought impossible. Outgrowing him. He sat in silence, haunted by a single thought. Those triplets could have been mine. At a beauty salon in Yaba, Yemisi sat under a dryer scrolling Instagram. She watched the viral clip of Adenike stepping off the jet, over and over again. Rewind. Play. Rewind. Play. Not out of jealousy, but out of dread. Because deep down she knew. Desmond would never look at her with the same awe again. Not after that. Not ever. And as if fate had more to add. That night, Desmond received a small envelope delivered by courier. No name. No return address. Just a scan report. Paternity test negative. His jaw clenched. His hands trembled. The IVF baby Yemisi was carrying wasn't his. He fell back into his chair. Sweat pooled at his temples. A single tear escaped his eye. He had lost everything. Back in Lagos, Adenike was unbothered. While the world dissected her return, she was organizing a food drive for widows in Bariga. She didn't want fame. She wanted to give back. She told Tolu one evening, "When I was kicked out, all I had was a nylon bag and tears. Now that I have plenty, I want to be the bag in someone else's storm." Tolu simply nodded. He admired her more with every passing day. Not because she was trending, but because she remained grounded, unshakable. Even her triplets were adjusting well. One afternoon, their daughter pointed to a billboard with her mother's picture on it and asked, "Mummy, why is everyone talking about you?" Adenike smiled gently. "Because sometimes, when you walk through fire and come out glowing, the world wants to know how." At the Aho kitchen, customers doubled. Patronage poured in not just for the food, but the spirit behind it. Young women came just to see her. To say, "Auntie Adenike, you gave me hope." And she would always smile and reply, "Hope is free, but you must choose to hold it." But far away, in a silent Abuja mansion, Desmond poured another glass of whiskey. Alone. No wife. No children. No peace. Only echoes of a woman he thought was replaceable. He scrolled to one of her photos and whispered bitterly, "You were never supposed to win." But the truth was undeniable. She didn't just win. She became the standard. In the days following her quiet but earth-shaking return, Adenike did not chase attention. Attention chased her. DSTV Africa Magic reached out. They wanted a reality show. Madame Aho, from nylon bag to private jet. She declined. Ibuka's interview team messaged her management. She politely said no. Even CNN Africa sent a soft inquiry. She smiled and said, "I'm not a story. I'm a vessel." Instead of TV lights, she focused on real ones. The street lights in Iwaya. The candle flickers in Bariga. The market bulbs in Jakande. She launched the Aho Sisters Foundation, aimed at helping divorced and abandoned women, barren women wrongly blamed, mothers raising children alone, girls who dropped out due to shame or pregnancy. And she didn't just donate money. She showed up. At the first outreach event, in a dusty open field in Mushin, hundreds of women gathered. Many had heard the jet story. Some had cried when they watched the video. But none expected her to come in person. She wore a simple ankara blouse and wrapper. No lace. No makeup artist. No entourage. She climbed the small wooden platform with a calm that silenced the whispers. Then she began. "I was called Barren for 6 years. I was mocked. My womb was blamed. I almost took my life." The crowd stilled. She paused, then continued. "But today I carry 3 children in my arms and millions in purpose. Not because I fought back with anger, but because I surrendered my shame and found my strength." Women wept. Some fell to their knees. Others just clapped with trembling hands. A young girl whispered to her friend, "I want to be like her one day." And her friend replied, "Me, I want to survive like her." That evening, #AhoSisters trended on social media. But Adenike was offline. She was in her living room, breastfeeding one of the triplets, singing an old Yoruba lullaby her late grandmother used to sing. Orin Ao Lmi Makeo. Taloran Tefeo Sinami. I will sing songs of joy, for God has placed joy within me. Meanwhile in Abuja, Desmond saw the trending clips. He sat in silence. The TV was on, but his mind wasn't. All he could think was, she used to cry beside me. Now, others cry because of her strength. He considered calling. Just once. To say sorry. To apologize. But what would it change? She had become untouchable. Not by status, but by peace. She was beyond reach. Back in Lagos, a board meeting was held for the Aho Kitchen Group. They were planning their next branch in Victoria Island. The investor from Nairobi asked, "Have you considered franchising into East Africa?" Adenike paused, then smiled. "Only if the vision stays pure." Tolu leaned toward her after the meeting. "Still not used to being the boss?" She chuckled. "No. I'm still that woman who once measured Gary with a matchbox." Later, as they walked home hand in hand, Tolu stopped her under the glow of a flickering streetlight. "I have something to ask." Adenike raised her brow. "Again?" He smiled. "Not marriage. We already did that." Then he reached into his bag and pulled out an envelope. It was a land deed. "For your foundation. Your own building. No rent. No limitations." She gasped. Tears welled. "I don't know what to say." He replied. "Just promise you'll keep being a voice, even for those who still whisper." That night, Adenike journaled by candlelight. "I asked for one child. You gave me 3. I asked for peace. You gave me purpose. I asked for justice. You gave me a platform. I will not waste this grace." Her triplets stirred in their sleep. She leaned down, kissed their foreheads, and whispered, "Your mother is no longer the woman they mocked. She is the woman they now quote." Desmond no longer smiled in public. But he still posted as if he did. His Instagram showed brunch at Hilton, gym selfies, boardroom snaps with the caption, "Chasing legacy. No distractions." But offline? The mirrors knew the truth. At night, he scrolled endlessly, through news articles, old photos of Adenike, blurry images of her triplets, interviews she never granted but others gave on her behalf. One video had millions of views. From Barren ex-wife to mother of triplets, Adenike's silent grace. He played it 17 times. And wept after the 18th. Yemisi returned to Abuja after a week of ghosting him. She arrived wearing oversized sunglasses, a fake smile, and a fresh BBL. "Baby," she said, "I needed to clear my head." Desmond poured a drink. "I saw the test result." Her face froze. "I can explain." He cut her off. "You were never pregnant. IVF or not. And even if you were, the baby isn't mine." Yemisi dropped the bag she was holding. "Desmond, listen." He raised a hand. "No more lies." Later that night, neighbors overheard shouting. Glass shattering. By morning, Yemisi had packed and left again. This time, maybe for good. But Desmond's problems had just begun. A financial audit flagged irregularities in his logistics firm. A former staff member leaked internal emails to the press. The headline hit like thunder. "From groom to grief, wedding magnate under scrutiny for fraud." The board called for an emergency session. His lawyer advised silence. His PR manager quit. He sat in his once glorious office, now dark, dusty, and empty. He thought of calling his mother. But she was now back in the village, ill and bitter, having lost all her bragging rights. "The new girl hasn't given us anything," she once shouted on a family call. "I told you, Adenike was the real blessing. You chased her away like a goat." He had ended the call mid-rant. But her words haunted him. Meanwhile, Adenike was in Bagada supervising the foundation's new shelter. She had just finished reviewing the dormitory layout when a volunteer tapped her gently. "There's a woman outside asking to see you." Adenike stepped out. Her breath caught. It was Mama Desmond. Looking older. Weaker. Humbled. "Mama?" Adenike whispered. The old woman looked down, then slowly knelt. "My daughter, forgive me." A few passers-by turned to look. She remained on her knees. "I chased you out. I cursed your womb. I was wrong. God used you to show me pepper." Adenike lifted her gently. You shouldn't kneel, Mama. I must. Your grace exposed my wickedness. Adenike helped her inside, gave her water, and offered her a seat. They spoke for hours. She did not gloat. She listened. And when Mama Desmond left, she did so with a full food package, transportation money, and dignity. That evening, Desmond's phone rang. He answered without checking the caller. Mama? Her voice was gentle. I saw her today. He paused. She's bigger than you now, Desmond. Not because of money, but because she healed. You're still bleeding. He hung up and sobbed into the silence. That night, the city of Abuja glittered as usual. But inside one penthouse suite, a man once hailed as a king curled up on cold marble tiles, whispering, I was the disgrace, not her. Back in Lagos, the Aho Kitchen launched a community feeding program, offering free Sunday meals to 100 people every week. Tolu looked at Adenike as they packed jollof rice and chicken. You know you don't have to do all this yourself. She smiled. I know. But this isn't about food. What is it about then? Restoration. The couple stood hand in hand as a line of mothers and children filed in, receiving meals with smiles and teary thank yous. Afterwards, one of the foundation girls gave her a handwritten letter. You taught me that dignity is louder than revenge. Adenike folded the note, held it to her heart, and whispered, That's all I wanted to become. Abuja was hot that week. But Desmond felt cold inside. Not the kind of cold that air conditioners bring. The kind of cold that seeps into your bones. Regret, failure, loneliness. His business was hanging by a thread. His so-called friends had disappeared. Yemisi had posted new photos in Dubai with a mysterious billionaire sponsor. And his mother had stopped picking his calls. But something strange arrived that morning. A white envelope. No name. Just his address. Inside, a single card. You are cordially invited to the 10th Annual Women of Strength Awards, special recognition for community impact. Honoring Mrs. Adenike Adebayo, founder, Aho Sisters Foundation. Location, Transcorp Hilton, Abuja. Date, Saturday, 6 p.m. Dress code, regal black. Desmond sat still. The same hotel where he had tried to humiliate her. Now, she was returning. But this time, not as a guest. As the main event. He wanted to throw the card away. He wanted to laugh. But he couldn't. Something pulled at his chest, humiliation, but also something deeper. Jealousy? Longing? He texted her. Desmond, congrats. You deserve it. No reply. Meanwhile in Lagos, Adenike was in her office. The triplets were napping in the nursery next door. She read the award letter again. Not because she didn't believe it, but because she still struggled to believe this was her life now. Tolu walked in, holding a dress bag. I had this made. Custom. Regal black, they said. She raised an eyebrow. He grinned. You're not just attending. You're owning the night. Saturday came. The Transcorp ballroom glittered like something from a dream. High-profile guests. Ambassadors. Celebrities. Influencers. But all eyes turned when she arrived. Not in a private jet this time, but in quiet elegance. A regal black velvet dress, embroidered with subtle gold threads. A wraparound gelly sat like a crown on her head. Her triplets wore matching outfits, mini tuxedos and lace gowns. The hall went still. The same hall where she had once been ignored. Now they rose to their feet. The host, a popular TV anchor, cleared her throat. Tonight, we honor not just a woman who overcame, but one who turned her pain into purpose. She was cast aside. She was mocked. She was called barren. But today, she feeds hundreds, shelters dozens, and inspires millions. Please welcome Mrs. Adenike Adebayo. She walked up slowly. Each step radiated quiet power. She stood at the podium and exhaled. Then began. Once upon a time, I was just a wife with hope in her heart. I gave love. I gave time. I gave my womb. But I was told I was empty. So I left with nothing. Nothing but faith. The crowd leaned in. That faith became my seed. And that seed became my garden. Today, I no longer cry at night. Today, I no longer beg to be seen. I serve. And I am seen, by God, and by women like me. Thunderous applause. Cameras flashed. But in the very back of the hall, someone stood quietly. Desmond. He hadn't planned to come. But something about her voice. It healed him and wounded him at the same time. He didn't speak to her. He didn't approach. He simply clapped. And cried. For the first time, truly. After the event, in her hotel room, Adenike was removing her earrings when one of the triplets toddled toward her. Mama, you win? She smiled. I did, baby. Tolu wrapped an arm around her. And the best part is, you didn't have to fight dirty. That night, as she laid in bed, her phone buzzed again. A message. Desmond, thank you. Not for replying, but for becoming the woman I never deserved. She typed. Then deleted the reply. Some things were better left unread. The screen faded to black. Then her voice echoed softly. They invited me to mock me. But God sent me to remind them. You cannot disgrace who grace has already crowned. It was a cool Sunday morning at Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport in Abuja. Private jets taxied slowly across the tarmac. The staff at the VIP lounge were unusually excited. Not because of a politician or a foreign dignitary, but because of her. Adenike stepped out of the black SUV, wearing a cream kaftan and soft sandals. Her geli was simple this time. No velvet. No embroidery. But she carried the air of someone who had climbed a mountain barefoot and come back down smiling. Tolu held one child. She held another. The third, little Dara, walked beside them in tiny white sneakers, holding her mother's clutch bag like a treasure. The airport crew greeted her with silent awe. Some whispered, "That's the woman from Aho Kitchen. You didn't hear? She used to sell food by the roadside. Now she has a foundation and triplets." As she waited for her jet to be cleared for boarding, she noticed a familiar face near the check-in counter. Desmond. Alone. No ring. No bags. Their eyes met. No tension. No hatred. Just history. He took a few steps toward her. Stopped at a distance. Then said softly, "I was going to London. For nothing important. Just needed air." She smiled politely. "Travel safe." He looked down at the child in her arms. "He looks like you." A small silence passed. Then he added, "They all do." She nodded. "They have my name too." That one stung. Gently but precisely. Still he nodded with respect. "I'm glad." He hesitated. "I used to pray you'd never move on." She raised a brow. "But I did." "And I'm grateful you did," he said, almost to himself. He reached into his pocket and pulled out an envelope. "It's not money. Just a letter. I wrote it the day I saw you walk out of that jet." She didn't take it. Not immediately. "You don't need to explain anymore, Desmond." He looked pained, but understanding. "I know. But sometimes, apologies aren't about reopening the past. They're about closing it properly." She took the letter, folded it, slipped it into her tote bag without reading, then extended her hand. He shook it gently. "Goodbye, Desmond." He smiled, the first real smile in a long time. "Goodbye, Adenike." He turned and walked away, not with defeat, but with release. A few minutes later, her jet stood ready. As they boarded, one of the triplets asked, "Mama, who was that man?" She thought for a moment, then replied, "Someone who taught me that sometimes, losing everything, is how you find yourself." Inside the jet, the baby snacked on chin-chin and biscuits. Tolu poured her a glass of zobo and kissed her forehead. "You did it." She leaned back in the plush seat, closed her eyes and whispered, "We did." As the plane soared above the clouds, Adenike gazed out the window. Lagos waited below, with its chaos and charm. But she was no longer afraid of returning. She had faced her shame, turned it into strength, and now she flew above it. A soft narration faded in. "They invited me to be shamed, but I arrived clothed in grace. They called me barren, but I bore fruit in purpose. They thought they ended my story, but God was just flipping the page." Back at the Aho Kitchen Training Center, a young girl reads from a workbook. The only revenge a woman needs is to heal so loudly, the world cannot deny her. On the wall behind her, a large framed portrait of Adenike and her triplets hangs proudly. Captioned, "From disgrace to graced, the woman who flew above it all."